Hello. Um, so lovely to see you all. My heart is swirling. So that's a good sign because it feels the movie that we're gonna show feels so inspiring. It's like I just want to explode. Yeah, and we feel like this is like a continuation of the last movie gathering we did. And it's almost like you are looking at the same thing from a different angle and with even more examples and even more demonstration, and just to make sure that this is really covered in our mind and we get the lesson. I think that's the real true prayer for us. So this is a movie about Nelson Mandela, and that's it. I don't know what else to say. It's called Invictus, and many of you might have seen it before. But right after we did the last movie gathering, it just came to my mind with this. I was like, oh my God, I just want to watch that movie again, because the first time we watched it, it was so together. It was so profound and so helpful for us. And yeah, it became obvious that that was really given to extend, and I couldn't wait to see it. And I was praying about the movie, and because the movie really depicts Nelson Mandela, many of you may know that he spent 27 years in prison, and he was in prison because he was for conspiring or trying to conspire to overthrow the government. And he spent like from these 27 years, 18 years he spent in this Robben Island, in this little tiny small cell. And what he went through was just so profound, because as soon as he left the prison, he came out and said, actually, peace is the solution, and anger is never justified. And with anger, we cannot do anything. If we are to bring the change, we cannot come from the place of anger. And if you think about it, and if you really take it into your heart, like, can you imagine, like at the beginning, he was so passionate uh, protecting my like rights of the ones that we are not um, treated well, let's say. And there was this friction in South Africa, and then there was this racial segregation. And at the beginning, he was so passionate to do everything to fight for these rights, and he was angry and he was upset, and he was like, I'm gonna die for this. And then he goes into the prison, and he's not treated well, he's not in good conditions, and he comes out of the prison and he says, actually, the answer is peace, not anger and not conflict. So can you imagine what a profound transformation he went through in his mind to be able to come to that place honestly? And as soon as he stepped out of the prison, he became president. And as soon as he stepped out of the prison, he just started working with the Holy Spirit, let's say, or letting Holy Spirit work through him to end the conflict. And the lesson that was coming to my mind from the course is, forgiveness ends the dream of conflict here. And that's what essentially Nelson Mandela did. He was not concerned about taking sides. He was not concerned about punishing or getting back to the ones who treated him bad. He was concerned about, okay, how do I serve the higher plan? How do I serve God's plan for salvation? And how can I bring everyone together, and how can I come to this place of forgiveness, because this is my dream and I am the dreamer of the dream. And he had this beautiful poem. The reason this movie is called Invictus is the name of the poem that Nelson Mandela was repeating in his mind again and again in prison. Whenever the times would get really, really dark for him, whenever he would be so challenged, he would just keep repeating this poem in his mind. And the two sentences that this poem ends with is, I am the master of my fate. I'm the captain of my soul. These are the two phrases that he kept repeating and repeating and repeating so that he could remember through the darkness and through the ego backlashes and everything, through all the shadow figures, through all the reflections that he was getting, reflections of hatred, reflections of you are a terrorist, you are dangerous, you cannot be treated well. He was just repeating, I am the master of my fate, I am the captain of my soul. And essentially that's what Jesus is asking us to do. That's what Jesus is asking us to approach this dream as, because it's like you have to accept that you have the connection with God, and you can, everything can be as a love or a call for love, and you are here just to answer that call for love constantly. And Nelson Mandela in this movie demonstrates it so beautifully. As soon as he comes out and goes into his office, everyone who was against him before is packing basically, because the natural response for them is to, okay, he's gonna just fire us, he's not gonna accept us to work with him because he's not gonna trust us. And Nelson comes in and he says, actually, no one has to leave. Unless you cannot work with me, you don't have to leave, you can stay. And everyone was surprised, like first step out of the prison, and he is already teaching what he would learn. He's teaching peace, and he's teaching forgiveness. And he, in this movie, he's using rugby sports to bring this change about. And yesterday we did this live with Helena about the today's movie gathering, and all of a sudden it became so clear how Jesus is using the form to reach the mind, to address the mind. Like Jesus does not care about the form. Jesus does not address the form. He's not concerned with the form, but he's using it to correct our mind, to correct this profound sense of separation and loneliness that is in our mind. And I was looking at that time, what was happening in South Africa was apartheid. And the definition of it in African language, it means separateness. And this lesson, I was reflecting about this lesson, forgiveness and the dream of conflict here. And essentially, it's like that's what is happening in our mind. Everything that is happening, every conflict, whether it's interpersonal relationships or we see the war in the world, it's our own call for love. Any kind of conflict is our own call for love. And we have the ability to let Jesus correct that mistake. And that conflict comes from believing in the ego and believing that we are separate. So Nelson Mandela was kind of addressing apartheid, which means separateness. He was addressing that, and he was correcting that in his own mind through these very light-hearted means of sports. But the way he takes step is never without any prayer. You feel like everything that he says, everything that he extends to any person, no matter who it is coming from this profound prayer and profound purpose to serve the whole, to serve what is best for everyone, to serve love, to serve peace. He never takes anything lightly, and he sees in everything the opportunity to address this conflict, to end this conflict, to bring healing to the mind. That's all he does all the time. He never has a break. So this is what Jesus is calling us to do. It's never to focus on the form and circumstances and wanting to have outcomes, but it's in the mind, this profound shift in perception. When you are in true service, in your thoughts, in your actions are filled with that purpose and are coming and inspired by that purpose. And another phrase that was coming to my mind was, it's like the conflict is asking for love, it's not asking for punishment. And that's what Mandela did. He came out of the prison, and as soon as he came out, he didn't start blaming others, he didn't start playing the victim. No, he stepped into that I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul, and I determine how I am treated, and I determine who I really am, and not outside circumstances, not how others are treating me, whether others are listening to me, value me, appreciate me. It's me. It's me. I decide how I feel, and I decide what mission I want to fulfill. Do I want to fulfill the mission of the ego, mission of attack, or do I want to fulfill the mission of love, mission of bringing light? And I want it to be so, so clear that Nelson Mandela is not different from us. The missions that he's fulfilling and that everything that is unfolding in the movie can always repeat. It's not someone else. It's actually you. It's your inspiration. It's your calling. And you can fully take that example in. And today I wanted to read these several paragraphs from the section. It's from the chapter 19, or maybe not, but the section is called Unreality of Sin. And Jesus is talking about this. Whenever you feel like someone is deserving attack or punishment, you are making sin real, and therefore it will be repeated again and again and again. And what was mind-blowing about reading this section was like Jesus is saying, sin has attraction, error does not. So if you are strengthening the idea of sin in your mind, it's going to repeat itself again and again and again. But every time we have this opportunity to end this cycle of attack and cycle of believing in sin. So I wanted to read this section because I think it's so profound in showing us that we actually want to let go of sin, and actually it is already done. It's already released if we are opening our mind to the real solution. And in this section, Jesus says, the attraction of guilt is found in sin, not error. Sin will be repeated because of this attraction. While the guilt remains attractive, the mind will suffer and not let go of the idea of sin. For guilt still calls to it, and the mind hears it and yearns for it, making itself a willing captive to its sick appeal. Sin is an idea of evil that cannot be corrected and yet will be forever desirable. As an essential part of what the ego thinks you are, you will always want it. And only an avenger with a mind unlike your own could stamp it out through fear. The ego does not think it possible that love, not fear, is really called upon by sin and always answers. For the ego brings sin to fear, demanding punishment. Yet, punishment is but another form of guilt's protection, for what is deserving punishment must have been really done. Punishment is always the great preserver of sin, treating it with respect and honoring its enormity. What must be punished must be true, and what is true must be eternal and will be repeated endlessly. For what you think is real, you want. What you think is real, for what you think is real, you want and will not let it go. And I think that's what Nelson Mandela made this choice, that he didn't want punishment and sin to be real. So as soon as he came out, he didn't act from that place. He completely overlooked every error, and only thing he wanted to see was an opportunity to strengthen the purpose that he was holding in his own mind. He was not looking at the form for interpretation, for the meaning. He had that meaning and that purpose in his own mind. And then he saw every opportunity, every situation as an opportunity to strengthen that goal in his own mind. And I think this is profound. What must be punished must be true. And what is true must be eternal and will be repeated endlessly. And whatever you think is real, that's what you want. And it will be repeated. So that's why Jesus is always urging, what is it? What is your purpose? What is it that you want? Clear your mind from all these false beliefs and false desires by looking at them and by questioning them. That's the only thing we are asked to do. But don't be just mindlessly going around and letting the world tell you what is your purpose, what is your meaning, how loved you are, how cared for you are. No, it's in your own mind. You have to decide for it. An error, on the other hand, is not attractive. What you see clearly as a mistake, you won't correct it. Sometimes a sin can be repeated over and over with obviously distressing results, but without the loss of its appeal. And suddenly you change its status from a sin to a mistake. Now you will not repeat it. You will merely stop and let it go. It is sin that calls for punishment, not error. The Holy Spirit cannot punish sin. Mistakes he recognizes and would correct them all as God entrusted him to do. But sin he knows not, nor can he recognize mistakes that cannot be corrected. For a mistake that cannot be corrected is meaningless to him. Mistakes are for correction, and they call for nothing else. What calls for punishment must call for nothing. Every mistake must be a call for love. What then is sin? What could it be but a mistake you would keep hidden, a call for help that you would keep unheard and thus unanswered? And as soon as the Mandela came out of the prison, he was hearing the call for help. In form, there was this extreme poverty, extreme violence, extreme sickness that was happening. And then the way he looked at it, okay, I'm not going to start correcting this in terms of the form. Let's end poverty, let's end sickness, let's end violence. But he went, no, the first thing is I have to address the conflict in my own mind, and I have to bring about peace, bring about the purpose of peace, and show everyone how important and essential and how it's like a foundation for everything. In order for the things to change in form, you have to address the real problem in your own mind. And that's what he went for. And he went for with the rugby. All of a sudden he started, okay, everyone loves rugby, and seems to be this split. But if I can bring them together, if I can realize that love and passion that they are sharing is the same thing, and that they have the same interest, then everything will fall into place. And once you recognize that I have the same interest that my brother has, then you are not pushing him away. You're not defending from him. You are willing to collaborate and work with him, basically. And that's what Jesus used rugby for in this movie. In time, the Holy Spirit clearly sees the Son of God can make mistakes. On this, you share his vision. Yet, you do not share his recognition of the difference between time and eternity. And when correction is completed, time is eternity. The Holy Spirit can teach you how to look on time differently and see beyond it, but not while you believe in sin. In error, yes, for this can be corrected by the mind. But sin is a belief that your perception is unchangeable and that the mind must accept as true what it is told through it. So every time we think that we cannot experience a miracle, that Jesus, it's like there is order of difficulty or hierarchy or evolutions. Basically, we are saying that I am believing in sin, and this cannot be changed. This is fixed, and this cannot be corrected. That's what we are saying. Basically, that's a reflection of our own belief in sin. But every time we are opening up to, okay, maybe I'm not perceiving this situation in the right way. Maybe there is another way of looking at this. Maybe I can accept the miracle. And every time we pray and ask for a miracle, that means that we are loosening our mind from the belief in sin. The only power that could change perception is thus kept impotent, held to the body by the fear of changed perception, which its teacher, who is one with it, would bring. You will be healed of sin and all its ravages the instant that you give it no power over your brother. Like, you will be healed of sin and all its ravages the instant that you give it no power over your brother. and you will help him overcome mistakes by joyously releasing him from the belief in sin. And when you watch this, you can just see how Nelson Mandela's character does it again and again and again. He is releasing all his brothers from the past associations, from all the concepts of attack and defense. Everything disappears, and he just meets them in the moment with a clear present moment. And he just answers their call for help, their call for love, and he just brings love in every situation. And when you watch this, just remember, just watch very, very carefully, because every little interaction he has with everyone, like for example with the secretary, every time he sees her, he's like, oh, you look so nice today, or some kind of compliment. And then right away this woman leads up and she's like, oh my god, what can I do for you? Like, I want to serve. And you can see he does these little things, not huge things. Sometimes we think that, oh, what am I doing, Jesus? Give me something. Give me something profound. Give me something huge. But actually, it's in little things, in every moment, whenever you are able to give love and give support and let Jesus come through you. That's where the salvation is accomplished, not when we do something major or something huge or something flashy or something sparkly as the ego judges it, but it's in small moments. So he has this attitude, like the movie that we watched, what Maisie knew, what we were touched by was that attitude that she had. She almost saw no attack. And then it's the same in this movie. There is this attitude, like living demonstration, not trying to get there, but it's this complete trust that it will come through and the answer will be given. And he doesn't hesitate to follow whatever he's given, whatever means he's given him. He does not allow himself to be like distracted by characters, by their hatred, by their hurt, by their pain. No, he's so clear about his purpose in his own mind. So this is just so profound, because we had this theme. David has been showing these movies about music and about gaming, and he was like, he's encouraging us. Okay, open your mind. Anything can be used. Open your mind. Don't be fixated on the form, on the words, how it should supposed to be, how it's supposed to sound or mean or be or look. Just open your mind. And this is one of the. I think this is like a continuation of that. Now we are seeing how Jesus can use the sport and game, and seemingly we can judge it. Oh, there is this competition happening, but no, we have to go so much higher and so much deeper to recognize what Jesus is really doing with this movie and with all the characters. Would you like to share anything?
That was really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the part that you read about punishment is nothing. And I was just thinking about that, because with Nelson Mandela being in prison for 27 years, that's a strong idea of punishment. And really, that's the strong idea of punishment in our own mind. And clearly, he saw the nothingness of that. And then when he came out, he was teaching that wasn't the way any longer. And I think that's probably the lesson for everyone, really. That, and I was just thinking, we called this next level, and it's seemingly like bringing a nation together, but really that is absolutely nothing compared to your call for love. This is like a tiny grain of sand compared to what you need and what is being offered you. So this is so tiny, really, and it's seen as it's something, wow, it's incredible, but really it is your mind. And Jesus says you are the one that needs the help. You need a lot of help. And I think if we look at it from that perspective of it is mind calling to itself, that's the best way. That's how I like to watch the movie. It's only the mind calling to itself. And I see it as that, yeah, he saw this punishment, and that punishment was there, but he was taking it all back. He had 27 years to really look at it and say, this is not the answer. This is not the answer. I'm punishing myself. Yeah, that's the only punishment there is. There's only self-punishment, no matter what it looks like. And then he was then responding from a new place, from that call of love within inside of himself. Okay, this is my call for love. This is my dream. So then he was guided to respond in this complete and utter new way. And I think that's the whole point for a call for love. Jesus says, you do not know how to respond for a call for love at all. You don't even recognize it. And that's why you need me as the guide to guide you as to what the response is to your own mind. So that's the incredible thing, that you're seeming responding outside, but that's actually responding to the seeming part of you that needs this healing. And so Nelson Mandela is like, really, oh wow, I really need help here. I went completely in the wrong direction, and now this is my call for love. And clearly he went deep enough inside to see that, no, I can't do this punishment to myself any longer. And I love that he made such good friends with the prison guard that looked after him, that took him to the hospital and cared for him and everything. And in the beginning, the guy wasn't so keen on him, and found out what he did and stuff. And so they had to build this relationship, and they did. And when, after the 27 years, when Nelson Mandela was finally released, they both cried. That they were sad that they were leaving each other. And in actual fact, years later, Nelson Mandela hired him to, support. And Nelson Mandela was a much higher class, and this guy was from a farming class, and he was white, and it was like, whoa, what is he doing? What is he thinking? But he said that he heard, when he was in the prison, he would listen to all the conversations around him, all the behavior of people, and he could just hear the fear from the guards and from the prisoners all the time. He could hear, oh, if we do something wrong, we'll be punished, or if we punish them and they get into if they get into government, then they might come and they might punish us. So, oh my God, should we treat them kindly, or should we be firm on them, because they might start trying to take us over? And he started to see, obviously it was his own mind seeing all this fear around him and saying, oh, this isn't the answer. Yeah. So I think that's really, really beautiful. And I love in the movie Revolver, where the main character goes in prison for 7 years, yeah, and they say he's coming out of prison, and the guy Macca, who is his sort of enemy, he says, you need to get rid of him, because 7 years doesn't taste good, going to prison for something that you didn't do. He's going to be coming out and he's not going to be happy. Yeah. And it's like Nelson Mandela went to prison for 27 years and was like, this is not the answer, which is incredible, really, because anyone else would think, my God, you must be so angry and bitter, and oh, they boxed me in, they treated me horrifically, those bastards, whatever. I'm going to get revenge on them for this. And then he completely saw, really, the whole fear that was around him, that was his own mind. And that's what Jesus says. We're not actually running away from fear. You have to look at the fear and see that it's not real. You have to look at the punishment, as he said in that thing. I love that. And see, oh my God, it's literally nothing. I'm making it up in my own mind. It is a complete projection. And then obviously he saw that, and that was just the first step. And then Jesus said, yeah, now you've got to teach what you would learn. So now you've got to go and extend it to remember the truth of who you are. So he's just only ever extending to his own mind over and over again to remember that he's absolutely the Christ, that he is actually loved. Because also this ties into guilt. It's like, if you're in there for 27 years, he's probably feeling guilty, and that's what the world is for. We all feel this tremendous amount of guilt, and even we don't even know why we feel guilty half the time. It's absolutely running the show. Guilt is running the show. And this looks like on a major scale of 27 years in prison. It's like, wow, that's one hell of a guilt trip, yeah? Or at least my guilt trip isn't as bad as his guilt trip. But it's like every guilt trip is just is still you're a prisoner of your own mind. And so it's amazing to see someone escape the prison house. And that's why we love Jesus. That's why we love these things. But in actual fact, it's you. So you can't see it as Nelson Mandela. It's literally going to be showing you the absolute power of your own mind to transcend anything. And as I said, it's a tiny little blip. It's like nothing. Like Jesus would say, what, to heal a nation of black and white. He's just like, this is nothing. This is absolutely like a piece of cake. Yeah, compared to the love that you need in your own heart. And he almost teaches us, he says, you need to be on your hands and your knees and saying, wow, I don't really know how much love I need. Yeah, I think this is a major scale thing. And he's saying, yeah, that's nothing. You're the one that needs this more than anything. And you're going to have to desire that above everything else. Anything of this world whatsoever will hurt you as an idol. So you need to be absolutely down on your knees and say, well, I am the one here that needs help because I actually believe in punishment and I need to release this from my mind. And so that's why I love this from the mind perspective of like, wow, he obviously saw that. And now we're going to see how he responds to everything as this deep, deep call for love inside of himself.
Yeah, it's like such a huge letting go of the past completely. But and it's like you don't have to not be dependent on the form, what others are saying to you, what happened to you in the past, how you were treated, how you felt. You don't have to be a victim of any of it at all. You can just go within so deeply that you can let go of all those stories and leave it behind, basically. You don't have to be determined. Your purpose in your mind is what determines your attitude, and we have to take our focus off of the form and take it into attitude and really demonstrate Jesus's teachings and let go of the past completely. That's what Mandela is saying to us. See, all these things happened to me, and I could play a victim. I had all the reasons, but still I chose to come back to my purpose, my connection with God, and what I want to give. What is it that wants to come through me? So you are not the victim at all. No matter what is happening in your life right now, no matter what are the relationships, you have the choice to decide how you want to, what interpretation you want to accept for yourself, as Jesus did. This was kind of coming to my mind during last gathering as well. Jesus said, I was not attacked because I didn't take that interpretation for myself. And that's what Nelson Mandela did as well. He didn't accept any of it. And he was like, no, I have the power to decide what I'm gonna bring in every moment to the situation, to the relationships, to my mind. And every interactions that we have, we are always addressing our mind. Whatever we are saying to our brother, whatever attitude we have, it's always we are teaching our own mind what is it that is we want to be real. That's what it is. And this movie is basically, here is a character and he's just addressing his own mind. He's just healing his own attack thoughts and he's just answering his own call for love. Would you like to read anything? I want to read this poem, Invictus. As I said, this was like an anchor point for Nelson Mandela. And you can see, I think, it's like somehow describes his inner journey, what he went through, and how he came through that darkness that was in his mind. Because I was reading some things about it, and I read that he was in prison for 27 years, and he was allowed to be visited only once a year, and he was allowed to receive the letter only every 6 months, and the letter could not be longer than 500 words. So it was like he was so isolated, there was no way but to go within. And Morgan Freeman plays him in this movie. And then in one of the interviews, Morgan Freeman was saying that whenever I start to start working on the character, I'm always interested how much mind energy does the character take to be that person? How much mind energy do I need to be that person? And then he spent so much time with Nelson Mandela, and he was saying, Nelson is just quiet. There is no noise in his mind. In his inner world is just quiet. There is no energy taken as by the personality self. He's so present, and to be that present, you have to face some noise in your mind, let's say. So this is a poem. Out of the night that covers me, black as the peat from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how strait the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. Yeah, I really loved this moment. By this time, probably you've seen so many beautiful things, and sometimes it's actually you need to pause just to take it in. So many beautiful lessons. But yeah, I just wanted to quickly emphasize like this outing for the rugby team was actually the answer to their call for love, because they seemed so hopeless and so rigid. So now Mandela basically sent them, and it's like they have to find the spirit within themselves. They have to feel inspired. They have to have this sense that actually what we do is not really just sports. It has deeper meaning, deeper purpose to purpose of unity to bring everyone together. So now just one outing and you could feel that they're changed, almost like, okay, we have a bigger mission here. It's not just about rugby or sports. It's like it's to let go of judgment. It's to let go of the past. And even for the kids, like one of the kids was the one who went to get some clothes for himself, and then she didn't want to have that rugby uniform, and now probably it was the answer for him, because now he played, and all of a sudden sometimes you judge and you push, the ego pushes everyone away because it makes up all these stories. But when you face it, when you go towards it, you realize that you were wrong about all the judgments. So that was the opportunity for everyone, basically, to let go of judgments just through playing together, and just to seeing that actually everyone is kind and to fill everyone's heart, basically.
Yeah. So I can read a little bit, because I thought like now it's like they're sending out the messengers of love everywhere.
Mhm.
If you send forth only the messengers the Holy Spirit gives you, wanting no messages but theirs, you will see no fear no more. The world will be transformed before your sight, cleansed of all guilt and softly brushed with beauty. The world contains no fear that you laid not upon it, and none you cannot ask love's messengers to remove from it, and see it still. The Holy Spirit has given you his messengers to send to your brother and return to you with what love sees. They have been given to replace the hungry dogs of fear, and you sent instead, and they go forth to signify the end of fear.
It's beautiful. That reminds me of the very first scene of this movie. there is, I think, the coach says to one of the players, remember this time this country went to the dogs. So this quote reminded me of that. Instead of sending the dogs of fear, I think we can send the messengers of love. And actually, what also inspires me just watching Nelson Mandela, it's like he is always about his father's business. Like he is always so strongly focused on his purpose. There is no rest, no wavering, no, okay, I'm just gonna stop thinking about it. No, I have this goal, I have this purpose, I have this mission, and he thinks about it all the time in terms of, okay, what can be done? He never rests or takes a break in a good way. Like he's so focused on it all the time. His mind is fully immersed with that one goal and nothing else. He does not see anything else. And I think that the way to let go of the judgment and the past, you're so immersed in the purpose of serving, the whole, what served everyone. Like what he said to his daughter, it's like, no, that's very selfish because you want to address only your own selfish feelings, but that's not about that. That's not the way. You cannot find peace just by that. And I think that Jesus is calling us to that exactly. It's like to go so much higher. And his attitude is so beautiful. Like he's always focusing on serving the plan of awakening. And because of that, because his mind is not occupied by ego thoughts or judgments or attacks or feeling offended or anything, because of that, he's so present, he's able to notice all these different things. Oh, this is a great opportunity. Oh, okay. Like he doesn't necessarily have the plan, but he sees so many things, so many opportunities, and then he stays so fully focused and he gives everything to it. And I think that's what the awakening takes of us. Like we have to give everything to this. We cannot be lighthearted about it. We cannot take break. We cannot go, like, we have to give everything. We have to be willing to serve fully, and only through that can we really like remember who we really are. Can we really remember that actually I cannot judge, and I'm not this limited self, and Jesus wants to do that. So yeah.
Yeah, that's like in the conversation with Francois when they were there. And then he said, but how do you inspire this? Yeah, how do you inspire everyone to be great, to be greater than they are? And that's what Jesus does. Jesus inspires us to say, you are far more than this. And then that's what Nelson Mandela is doing. And then that's what we do for one another all the time. You know, Jesus says, it's easy to see the weakness, but see the good. See the good in your brother and allow that to come out and let them flourish truly. And that's what I think he sees in Francois. It's deeper than them too. And to go beyond the self is going to take everything. So he's encouraging that all the time. And I love that.
Yeah, it's like that's what we are here for. It's not to get anything, but I think Francois himself, he didn't really recognize the position that he had and the opportunity that he had, to the mission that he had. He didn't like when Mandela said like you have this really difficult job, and he was like, "Do I?" It's do I really? And then from that one conversation, Mandela was able to inspire him and to open his mind to something more. No, it's not just about winning or losing. It's something else. It's something deeper. So I think that can be the precious part of us, all of us being together or interacting or coming together, is to inspire us. And sometimes we do need to challenge each other. No, you have so much to give. Come out of your closet. Give. Otherwise, you will not be able to be happy. So that's what I think Mandela did for Francois. I know you have a big influence on the team. Everyone is listening to you. So your position makes a big difference. And it's the same for us. Like all our brothers are looking at us, and we can lead by an example. And we can say, no, you may not see the gift in yourself, but I see it. So step up, step out of your shadows, stop hiding. And that's actually, we owe each other that, because it's like if you share your light, brings healing to my mind, because it's the mind is one. So we want to all our brothers to fulfill their part, to play their part perfectly, and that's our gift to give to each other, to inspire each other in a truest sense, and not to buy into these illusions and ego stories or ego identities. No, you have the light to shine, and we don't know what it is exactly, but step up, do it, just go for it, don't hold back.
Yeah, and I think Mandela doesn't really know what he's doing either. But then he saw this rugby thing. He doesn't even understand rugby. He asked the other, "Okay, what is this game? How do you play this game?" And then he says, what's the World Cup?" He doesn't really understand it, but something has called him towards it. So clearly he doesn't know. And then he's just moving in that direction to respond to that love. And then what I like that you're going to see in a minute is that he then decides to learn all of the rugby players' names. And so he just thinks, okay, how can I give a little bit more? I don't know anything about these things. Can you imagine all the things that he's got on his plate, all of the decisions that need to be made? And then he says, no, I've got to learn all the rugby players' names. Because of course, when he wants to greet every brother as the Christ, to greet everybody with love. And that's really we can only do what's in front of us. And that's what I like when he undone the paper and he saw Francois there. And he's, oh yeah, that's that rugby. Okay, so
Pieces of the puzzle.
he's just following the breadcrumbs in front of us, and that's actually how easy it is. And that's what Jesus has taught for 2,000 years. How do I do all this love? Love the one that's in front of you. That's it. That's it. That's all you have to do. Love thy neighbor as yourself. And everyone who he meets, he tries to give a little bit. He doesn't seem to be busy in his daily life of oh, I'm too busy to say hello to anybody or whatever. He's just giving that love, and it's like he was suppressed seemingly, if you think about it in terms of mind. The mind was completely suppressed and alone for so long, and then oh my God, it's like all this love wants to come out, and now it's as if that needs to be expressed. And that's actually you. Really, the only thing that we ever hold back is the expression of love. That's the only thing that you can actually hold back.
Yeah.
There's nothing else that you can really do. So that's then that becomes our choice in every given moment. And then we slip up and we get another moment, we fall back into ourselves, and then Jesus gives another opportunity. So we never fail. We get the opportunity again, and he's not missing out on one opportunity to remember his call for love, and then to offer that love to his brother, because then that love is literally returning to himself.
Yeah, he almost like finds these points of connection. He doesn't say, "Oh, Francois, do this. You have whatever." No, he finds these little points of connection, like learning the names and everything. It's just his way of almost like saying to them, you can do this, you are worthy, you are a good player, you can do this, I value, to show them that there is a connection. And then he tries to build through that connection, to build the trust. It's not, I'm not superior to you, there is a connection, you can trust, we have the same interests. So the way he approaches things is also very, very inspiring. There is nothing forcing, but it's coming from that place of, like, from heart, really,
Yeah,
like you were saying.
desire to send the messengers of love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This movie is like a big hug. Receiving a big, big hug. Oh, so deep. Mm.
Well, this was similar to the poem from A Course in Miracles. Myself is ruler of the universe. It is impossible that anything should come to me unbidden by myself. Even in this world, it is I who rule my destiny. What happens is what I desire. What does not occur is what I do not want to happen. This I must accept. For thus am I led past this world to my creations, children of my will, in heaven where my holy self abides within them and him who has created me. You are the self whom you created, Son, creating like yourself and one with you. Myself, which rules the universe, is but your will in perfect union with my own, which can be but glad assent to yours, that it may be extended to itself. And that's the power of love, extending to itself.
The power of the mind.
Mm.
Wow, it's just beautiful. Forgiveness ends the dream of conflict. Yeah. And your mission is not small or any less than what happened on the screen.
Mm.
It's the same. To let go of the past and judgments and stories and be a miracle worker. Bless the world with miracles. Bless our mind with miracles. Answer the call for love.
Yeah, well, that was your mind.
Yeah.
You actually did that.
Yeah.
You actually do want union, that's the thing. Oh, so there it is in action.
Yeah, I love these parts where you see everyone celebrating. It's so touching because it shows you the heart.
Mm.
At heart, we all want to be happy, and we don't want differences, and we don't want to judge. It's just we want to celebrate. We want to be in joy. We want to be happy. We want to hug each other. We want to love each other. And yeah, it's wonderful to witness that. And you're right. Yeah, it's not like it's happening now. It happened just now in our mind. It's not something in form. What David, I recommend you listening to that commentary from David on the movie The Remarkable Life of Ibrahim. David talked about that. It's like it's not outside of you. There is nothing outside of you. And this example is in our mind, and we can accept the gifts. We can accept the gift of forgiveness and willingness and determination and love. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Many blessings. Stay inspired and inspire. It's your only vocation. It's your only function. Remember.